back. This is Boomer Life on CL650.
Yes, this is Boomer Life on CL650. I'm Joanne Sutton. Thanks for joining us today with our experts from the Alzheimer's Society of British Columbia. CEO Maria Howard is with us. And Maria, we haven't heard much from you today, with Dave Obey sharing his experiences and Dr. Romaine Gallagher taking the floor with advice on palliative care. You must be so thankful to have these types of people on your side to help.
I think it's wonderful to have so many people who can share so much of their experience and really act as a resource for families. And I think it's the same thing we are always talking about, is really encouraging families to know that they're not alone in this and to find that right resource, come to the Alzheimer's Society or these other resources like we've talked with Dr. Gallagher, and reach out and start a conversation and get the help they need.
So our next guest today is going to try to leave a little bit of the emotion out of the equation and provide a professional opinion on what needs to be talked about when you have that conversation about end of life. So I'd like to say welcome to Emily Clough. Thanks for joining us.
You bet. I'm happy to be here.
Now, Emily is a lawyer at Alexander Holborn. Her work focuses on estate and incapacity issues in both litigation and planning. She works with clients in planning for their potential incapacity in preparing representation agreements, advance directives, and powers of attorney. So that said, tell us what you do.
We use the word in there, litigation. So to say what I do is I deal with people thinking in all ways about death, whether it's planning ahead for their potential incapacity or their death, but also people maybe have made a plan, maybe they haven't made a plan, and things go wrong. And then they're going to have a fight, whether it's with family or with others, and I will help people in that situation as well. So we'll have some courtroom battles about that. So I will try to help people plan ahead so we can avoid the courtroom. But if it has to be that we have to go to court, I work in that area as well.
Oh, that's great. It's good that you can support on both sides of the coin as well. So when somebody comes to you preparing for end of life or wants to start that discussion, it's like where do you start?
It's hard for people to think about that, and I find a lot of the times people come to me and they wish or they think they need to know the answers in advance. But realistically, me and other lawyers out there who do this type of work, we help and deal with people every day. And we can help them figure out what is needed. We can talk to them about their circumstances, their situation, their money, which is always difficult, and help to make a plan that reflects their values and their goals and best protects them to make sure that their finances are handled appropriately and also that their values and their wishes for their own lives are undertaken properly in the way that they like them to.
So it's even difficult for us to start this conversation, and I know Maria Howard said it right off the top of the show that when someone is diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, they don't even want to talk about the diagnosis. So they, of course, don't want to talk about the end of life.
It's hard. It's hard for everyone. Some people even have cultural input into that some people might be worried that if they talk about their death or incapacity, it sort of brings it on. So it can be really hard to talk about these things. They're difficult concepts. Some people might have some difficult family dynamics. Some people have some things in their life that they are not proud about, they're ashamed about, and so they don't want to talk about it. But when we're thinking about end-of-life issues, it's all there. We've got to talk about it all, and that can be really difficult.
And you say the first step is to what? Is you just have to get them to
pick up the phone, write an email, whatever it is. And I often find that family members, they are worried about that too. And, maybe they don't want to push mom or dad into this. They don't want to seem greedy or seem like they're sort of wishing, in a sense, that their parents are moving towards death or that would come quicker. But really, that's what it takes, is that initial reach out, and family are welcome to help out in that, to start to contact. I would recommend people come to see lawyers. We have a lot of different laws that are out there. I often bring to seminars this book, which is about 4 or 5 inches thick, which has all the laws in BC that impact this. But what a lawyer can do is synthesize that all and figure out with the person what matters to them and what do they need. We can make it simple. We can make it just what they need. They don't need
have
everything.
to be complicated.
Exactly.
Just get in your door and you'll hold their hand through the process.
Get in the door and we'll talk. We'll figure it all and we'll ask the questions that need to be asked.
Okay. Talking about some of those questions, what are some of the most common issues or mistakes that happen when people are undergoing this process?
Yeah, some people will not get started at the beginning. Some people will think it's too late. They think I already have a diagnosis of Alzheimer or some type of dementia.
And it just doesn't matter anymore.
And they can't do it, right? And maybe people have told them that. Maybe it's too late. It often is not. For every type of thing that people might want to do, there's a variety of documents. We have different tests of capacity. Capacity isn't a black and white thing. You know, it's not on and then it's off and it never comes back again. People often are in the gray zone. And as Dave had said earlier, sometimes there's good days and sometimes there's bad days. And that plays itself out in terms of the legal stuff as well, which is that maybe there are certain things that people can't do, but there are a lot of tools out there and maybe people can still do some of them. So it's worth getting started to see what can be done because it's very rare that it's actually too late. The other mistake I see people make, I think I mentioned that, people think they need to know everything in advance. They don't. People think that they have to have a plan before they meet with the lawyer and that they can't ever change their minds. That's not true. You can change your mind as many times as you want as long as you've still got that capacity to do so. And you know, as we had heard earlier as well, people don't need to do it all themselves. There's lots of resources out there. The Alzheimer's Society is out there. There's lawyers out there, and there's other groups and organizations out there who have a lot of resources to assist. They're all there. This isn't a solo journey. You can often feel isolated by yourself, but there's lots of people out there who can help.
Is money one of the biggest concerns when they come to you about how their money will be handled or financial, you know, their finances?
Yeah, money is perhaps the most difficult thing for us to talk about besides death. So now when we do these plans, we're talking about both of those things, which is death and money, both of which are so difficult for people to talk about. And it's both ways, right? People are worried about how expensive it's going to be to do this. That's an important consideration. But when we look at, you know, we spend our lives working so hard and gathering as much as we can, and we want to help out our family, it's really important to not be penny wise and pound foolish in terms of setting up that plan for what's going to happen next. It matters in terms of making sure your values are acted upon, but also in the sense of if the plan has gone wrong, which I too often see, it can be really expensive to try and figure it out when it is really too late.
So one situation we hear about all too often is family members that have these conversations too late when they're in crisis mode. How do you get them in to deal with an end-of-life conversation early enough?
It's really important that we all take it on ourselves. It's so hard to do. It's so hard to talk about your own death, let alone somebody else's death. But for those out there who have that ability, it's really important to bring it up. Bring up the hard topics. Because as Dr. Gallagher had talked about, so much of what's important is the values. So much of what's important is the goals. And even when it might be sort of too late to do certain legal steps, people retain that core dignity in them, that core sense of what their values are and what their goals are. And so you can still talk with people about that. Even if you can't remember how much is in the bank, you can still remember what's important to you and what you value. So those conversations, they're as hard as they are to have, are important to keep having.
And what's the first thing somebody should do legally? Like, would it be a power of attorney, or would it be... You tell me.
You bet. This is the question people come in. They often come in and they know some of the things that they might want or not others, or maybe they'll tell me I want this and I don't want that. But it's really good to go into a lawyer and say, I want you to help me. Here's my situation. I want some help in terms of setting my plan in place, and then the lawyer can work with you to think about what you need. There's two types of main plans that we have. One is about finances, and that's where that power of attorney comes in. It lets you set out a plan about if you ever can't make decisions for your own finances, who can make them for you? And then the other part of it is the healthcare decisions. You can make a document, it's called a representation agreement, that lets you say, if I'm not able to make these decisions or if I need help to make them, who is it that I want to make the decisions or help me make those decisions?
Emily, if one of our listeners wanted to contact you with some questions or to expand on some of the topics you've mentioned already today, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
Just over email is fine, or my phone number, any way is fine.
Through Alexander Holborn, or?
Yeah.
We'll edit this to make it sound nice and clean. What would be the best way for some? You can give us your email address.
Okay.
If you want. Okay.
Yeah, sure. People could phone me at 604-484-1774, or they could email me. It's my name, which is eclough, ECLOUGH, at ahbl.ca.
Emily Clough, a lawyer with Alexander Holborn, and her specialty is working with clients in planning for their potential incapacity, in preparing representation agreements and advance directives and powers of attorney. Thank you very much for your contributions in today's show.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Very helpful on the topic of planning for end of life. So Maria Howard, any final words on today's show?
Thanks, Joanne. I think it's been a really informative show of lots of different experiences and aspects of a really tough conversation. The Alzheimer's Society BC really encourages families and people who are either living with Alzheimer's or dementia to really reach out and find the right resource for them. Our provincial helpline is always a place where people can start. 1-800-936-8033.
This is Boomer Life on CL 650. Thank you very much for joining us today with our conversation about end of life. We hope you were able to pull some helpful information from our special guests, including CEO Maria Howard, Times columnist editor-in-chief Dave Obey from Victoria, Dr. Romaine Gallagher, palliative care expert from UBC, and Emily Clough, lawyer with Alexander Holborn. If you have any questions about the subject matter or questions in general about Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, please visit the website at AlzhiemerBC.org. I'm Joanne Sutton with Boomer Life on CL 650. Thanks for being here.